Oh, it's time. Time to get radical.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to Radical Comment of the Week for September 29th through October the 5th, 2020. These are the very best comments from that time period. Starting out with the honorable mentions, we have Juliet India Mobile, Will's VG Addiction, and Wolfpack 1. The bronze medal comes to us from Billy 5 Tick. Once upon a time, I used to collect games. My goal in the beginning was simply to own a wide selection of games at my fingertips so that I could play anything I wanted on a whim. Over time, things started to change. I tried to tell myself that I didn't care about the value of the games, I just wanted the option of playing the games, but I found myself looking up the value of some of the stuff I had. I was reluctant to open games that were sealed. I didn't like where my head was going as far as my collecting. I would always try to pop in random games from my collection, not because I genuinely wanted to play them, it was to justify owning them. I found myself always gravitating towards the more modern games because I enjoyed them more. On top of that, the older games that I did really enjoy kept getting remade or getting remastered versions. My idea of collecting really started crashing down after I tried Microsoft's Game Pass service. This was it. This was what I wanted out of my collection the whole time, a large selection of games at my fingertips. Sure, Game Pass doesn't have every game that I want to try, but I found it was quite sufficient to satisfy my gaming needs. After that, I made the decision to sell off the lion's share of my collection, and with the money, I got myself a gaming computer. The best decision I have ever made. Not only do I have the power to emulate most of the retro games I really like, I have access to Steam and GOG. I realize that video games are fleeting most of the time. Most of the time I'm done with a game, it's highly unlikely I would revisit them because there are so many more that I want to try. So for me, I see no point in trying to own them all. Gotta have them all. Gotta have them all. You know, the Pokemon, right? They gotta have them all. And that's within a game. The idea that you gotta collect them all, right? I thought that was silly when people explained Pokemon to me. You know, a big thing of the game was having to collect them all. I'm like, okay, you gotta have them all. You gotta collect them all. And, you know, this is a big element of games, just the collector aspect. Imagine that. People collect games, but then they get into games just to collect these items. People will spend hours and hours just going through a game to collect just an item, just a worthless token in a game. You came to a realization. You was trying to collect everything because you wanted access to everything at your fingertips. But then something like Game Pass comes along, and you realize, wait, I don't have to spend all this money to get all these games, a lot of games that are pretty pricey now, when the reality is, Game Pass pretty much fulfills my needs. You have a computer. You have emulators. I'm guessing you have ROMs. You know, I have all these games at my fingertips, games that I never tried, games I had never heard of, right? My cup runneth over. Just think about this. You could have a computer. You could have emulators. You could have ROMs. You could have literally entire generations, past generations of games to experience. And you could get an Xbox, a Series S, and Game Pass. And you would have more than you could ever play. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. I have 2 out of 3 of those. I have more movies than I could ever watch. We're at a time right now where there's just too much, really. There's just too much. Like I could get maybe past generations when things weren't so easy and convenient, you know, having large collections of physical games, but let's just be honest to ourselves. We have not enough time and too many options. Thank you, Billy 5 Tick. The silver medal comes to us from Heavy Metal Gamer Show. About the having a game collection part, I partly agree. I mean, downsizing isn't a bad thing. Personally, most of my collection is PS2, PS3, and PC, but it's not overbearing. Most of my PC games are digital and have a ton on Steam. But if you have a little bit of extra money to buy some games, there is nothing wrong with that. Best time to buy is during sales, which is when I mostly buy. The point is, people need to focus on the important stuff first. Bills, having a job, a place to live, a bed frame. Oh, you didn't write that. A car to drive, etc. I have a room where my gaming stuff is at. It's where my PC is, as well as my consoles. It's basically where I do my videos at. I wouldn't cover my house in gaming stuff. That would be ridiculously stupid and really not help with the trim a lot. A bit cringy too if you were bringing a woman. Oh, okay, there you go. You know, I know I read this and chose this and everything, but I forgot that little part there. And your whole house is covered in gaming stuff. Also, you mentioned YouTube and how people need to take a step back, etc. I agree with that 100%. When it becomes an issue, when it becomes stressful, when it becomes overbearing, that's the point of, what's the point in getting into it that far? There comes a time you must say enough. Now that can be on other things. I do some side hobby stuff and non-gaming related stuff, and I had to take a step back on it. Because it was stressful. It was affecting my real job. I was pissed off, wasn't sleeping well, etc. All because I had stuff pushed onto me and was run into the ground. On top of my job being the same way, but what is more important? A job, you get paid. Best thing I ever did, the bullshit was lifted off my shoulders. Granted, I burned a bridge with a person I was doing some of this stuff for, but trying to explain stuff to the guy was like bashing your head into a brick wall, and it reached that breaking point. Now, when it comes to YouTubers going longer than they should, sometimes it's best to call it a day on the YouTube or even Twitch streaming. I personally don't think I will do this forever. For a while, sure, I enjoy doing what I do. It's a nice little side hobby. I like talking games, heavy metal, when I do podcasts, some NFL football, but I don't make it overbearing to where it affects other things like I do. But I don't see myself in my 60s or 70s doing this. Maybe 10 more years, 12 more years. I've already been doing it for 10, but at the end of the day, what does it matter in the end? Other than having fun and entertaining people and having laughs, in the real world it means nothing, which isn't a bad thing. Too many people want to be somebody, and they go the wrong route with it. And it's a desperation thing. I'd rather be a nobody online than a somebody that is desperate for the attention. On that last point, we see this a lot. There's a lot of people that will sacrifice too much to make YouTube work. And I think there should be a point when it comes to, and you realize, is it going to be worth it? Let's say, and you see it all the time, there's YouTubers that do so much, they try so many different things. They try to do the viral videos, and not just on YouTube, but, on other social media. They try to manufacture something because they just desperately want to be big on the internet. They want to be big on the internet. I can see why people would want to go viral. I mean, there's a lot of money in it, right? I could see why people would want to be famous on YouTube because maybe they have an emptiness within themselves and they need that justification to fill that emptiness, that void. A lot of people do that with game collecting. But sometimes you have to take a step back, whether it's game collecting, whether it's, trying to do whatever you can to get somewhere and to be noticed on YouTube. Sometimes you need to take a step back, from these things and look at your life and see if it's actually destructive or if it's a positive thing. Me personally, I love being on YouTube. I love, just like you, I love talking games. I love talking sports. I love talking movies. I love talking with people and, sharing my passions with the world, but I also love other things. I have other hobbies. Car radio is a big hobby recently, right? But ultimately, I think that's the original spirit of YouTube and what it's really supposed to be about. Just, getting together with people and sharing hobbies and information. When it gets to a point where you just want to, I think I covered that, but, when it gets to a point where it's destructive and it's actually harming your life and you're losing sleep worrying about, videos and, how they'll get recommended and everything, and you're worried about the numbers, then it's probably time to take a step back, temporarily or full time, to step back. Thank you, Heavy Metal Gamer Show. And a gold medal comes to us from Juliet India Mobile. I think I started to catch myself with limited release games companies for the Switch. I started to hard pick up almost every release from these limited print companies. I was kind of stung because I saw someone online doing a video on Thimbleweed Park. I grew up playing Monkey Island, Space Quest, Maniac Mansion, Quest for Glory, and all these other point-and-click adventure games. Thimbleweed, that's fun to say, Thimbleweed Park was completely up my alley, and then I realized it was only a limited release, and scalpers wanted more than double what it cost during print. I refused to support that behavior, so for some stupid reason, I just started buying these games as they were released. I was on a 6-hour flight to DC for work and decided to hit some of my backlog of these games. I got off the plane completely disappointed as I realized a lot of these were indie games and were shit. I have nothing against indie developers, but how many damn Metroidvania games can you make before you start to realize that the market is oversaturated and you have no real originality? Games don't have to look visually stunning. Again, I played a ton of EGA/VGA Sierra games as a kid, and by no means are they visually stunning. However, they're fun, which is more than I can say for some of the titles indies have released. I do like shoot 'em ups, and there are some that are head scratchers because they are so similar I can't tell them apart. At least the genre employs different mechanics to make them distinguishable, but hey, Metroidvania has permadeath because this genre has been overdone, and our only other gimmick is limited prints. After that, let's just say I had a sour taste left in my mouth. I realized the only reason I was buying some of these games was being afraid to miss out on a good game physically. I still buy some limited print stuff, but I invest more time into researching the games before I lay cash down on it. I've also considered just buying anything I missed out on via digital store fronts and to be patient. As for collecting, I don't have a solid goal. I just want to get copies of games I enjoy playing. I cringe at the thought of people going for complete collections. It's completely wasteful. I have all the systems I want to collect for. I do have a couple of obscure gaming things just for fun. I've been working to get flashcards or solid-state media modded alternate consoles to play. I'm doing this for convince because I'm doing this for convince. Okay, we'll go with it. Because I only keep a couple things hooked up at any one time. I keep most of my stuff neatly packed away, and I'll pull it out when I want to enjoy that nostalgic feeling. I may have a more decent setup when I buy another house. That won't be until I have a role at work that doesn't move me around so much, and if my wife and I decide to stay and not convert it into another rental. Call it hoarding if you want, but I'd never tell from my house. You never tell from my house that I collect retro games on video game stuff in general. That's a point also brought up by Heavy Metal Gamer Show, is you wouldn't tell from the outside or wouldn't tell from the house that you collect video game stuff. I just think that's kind of silly, is to, convert your house into like a game house. I mean, you should probably just have a dedicated like room for that kind of stuff. But you know what? I'm not telling people what they should do, really. I know sometimes people get really angry that I tell people what they should do with their lives. So, if you want to turn your house into like the Mushroom Kingdom or whatever and have Mario stuff everywhere, then so be it. Limited print run games, they release a lot of crap for full price. I don't want to see anybody that collects all the limited print run games, all of them. I don't want to see anybody who collects all those games complain about a Call of Duty being $60, right? Because on the one hand, you have like a Call of Duty, which is a AAA game, and say what you will about the Call of Duty series, some of them are better than others, but you have like a full experience with that. But some of these limited print run games are just garbage. And maybe they're better than the Bird King stuff, but complete absolute garbage. Not even as good as NES games in reality. You talked about the Metroidvania stuff. Yeah, so they look crap. They are derivative. But, when they're a full-time physical release, they're amazing. They're special. Got to have them all. Got to get them all, right? And that's the messed up thing, is they're hyping these games up, these indie games that shouldn't be maybe like a buck or two in reality. They're making a killing on these. They all love it because they're taking all these indie games that really, like I said, there's not a lot of actual value you get for these games, and $40, $50, $60, $70. Have you seen some of these prices on eBay? It is just disgusting. It is just disgusting. And I think people just need to come out and point to them what they actually are. I mean, they're crap for the price. Again, a lot of you don't be on here telling me about your full limited run game collections and complaining about a new AAA game. Maybe it's a little buggy. Maybe there's some short levels or something like that. No. Look at what money was put into a game and assess that in the cost. Indie games should be cheaper because they're indie games. I've seen rare instances where there's indie games and small games in scale, and they can be really good. Hey, they can be really good and amazing, but they should be priced appropriately versus AAA games.